Hello, it's Tuesday morning. That means it's time to hang out with the one and only Laith Marouf. We got lots of things to talk about, and I have a feeling we're going to learn a whole lot about what's going on in the Middle East. Let's talk. Good morning, Garland here with Laith Marouf, and the numbers, it's so obvious that I am so shadow banned. I mean, my numbers will go up and they go, whoo, I looked, listen to this. I looked at my analytics for my channel, and I increased a huge number of the number of views,
subscribers.
Well, I'll put it like this. The number of views and viewers went up dramatically. Subscribers went down by 49% over a 1 year period. And I look, and it's funny because you'll look and like the number of views will be going up, and the number of subscribers, and then everything else is going down. It's like, gee, so the more people that watch, the less people that watch. That doesn't make sense at the same time, but that's how it goes. That's what we got to. They literally nuked the Laith Marouf, the Free Palestine.video channel, nuked the channel because it was, I'm sure, in violation of everything dear to the Zionists and the warmongers, no doubt. And sometimes you have to be proud. If the Zionists and the warmongers are opposed to you, you got to be doing something right. FreePalestine.video. That is the most important website that you need to hear about. Why? Because it's an English language website that Laith and his group they're running. Absolutely fantastic work. They got video work, they got written work, you name it, and it's up to date, so you can find out everything that's going on from the ground, English language, straight out of the Middle East in real time. Go to freepalestine.video. Make sure when you go there, you follow them on all of their social media platforms. And additionally, there's a donate button, and you can donate one time, or what would be even better would be a monthly donation. So share freepalestine.video on all your social media platforms. Look, if you want to be a part of things, you're in the chat, you're watching and things like that, and you're like, yeah, this is great, I'm supporting. But if you want to be a part, if you want to do something, well, what can I do to help? You can go to freepalestine.video. And even if you only got a little bit, even if you only got $5, maybe you can set up to do $5 a month. How great would that be? Whatever you can afford. That's how you can be a part of it. Rather than just watching and making comments in the chat, you can actually be a part of doing something good for the cause. freepalestine.video. Laith Marouf, time to get going. Certainly appreciate the fine work you're doing at your website. Let me read something to you that I find consequential. Let's start here because there's talk of a ceasefire deal. This is in Haaretz. Haaretz, for people who don't know, is spelled Haretz. It is ostensibly, they call it left-leaning, but it is an Israeli newspaper out of Israel. Trump's Mideast envoy forced Netanyahu to accept a Gaza plan he repeatedly rejected. Israeli sources say that the involvement of the incoming U.S. administration, led by Trump's aggressive Middle East envoy Steve Witkoff, revived hostage talks with Hamas, while Netanyahu's propaganda machine claims that Trump has left him no choice. So there's more and more, but we'll stop there. If that is true, I don't know if it is. What that would mean is this, that the Biden administration was lying the whole damn time. That I believe that any given damn time they wanted to, they could have forced Israel to stop. They're providing the intelligence. They're providing the planes, the tanks, the missiles, the weapons. The U.S. empire is providing everything. And might I add, as soon as the October 7th attack occurred, they sent in all of the military leaders and strategists to control. So they're controlling the war. They're fighting in the war. They're providing everything for the war, but yet they claimed they had no input. And now, if this is correct, Donald Trump came in and said, hey, stop. And they said, crap. Okay, we'll take the deal. I don't know if it's true or not. Let me get your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, look, whether it's true or not, it's clear the propaganda machine of the empire is starting to present it as such, which, as you said, clearly it's a condemnation of Biden's presidency, because they gave Israel everything it needs to continue this genocide, and they decided that they will have zero influence over this vessel and this colony. And whether already Trump wants this and Netanyahu agrees to it, and anyways they were delaying it just till to coming of Trump to give him a boost. That's even more condemnation of the Biden administration. In any case, we also heard in the last few hours, first Ben Gvir and Smotrich coming out saying to Netanyahu, we're going to collapse the government if you accept this. Over the last 24 hours, they were barking and barking. But then just minutes ago, before we got on here, Ben Gvir is now apologizing to his Jewish Power Party, that's the name of his party, saying that he has no power, no Jewish power to stop this deal. So it's all theatrics all around. The Palestinians inside Gaza are all anxiously waiting for the ceasefire. People want to go back to their whatever is left of their homes. They want to try to find their neighborhoods and try to get back to build something. Already we see the beginnings of the Israeli withdrawal from the Netzarim axis that cuts the middle of the Gaza Strip, and the Palestinian authorities and factions inside Gaza warning people not to approach the Netzarim axis, even though the Israelis are withdrawing, because of fear of revenge attacks by Israeli soldiers that are frustrated at the withdrawal, that they would be shooting at civilians that are trying to get back home. So remember last time the ceasefire in Lebanon was called around 3:30, 4 a.m. And in the hours before the ceasefire came into effect, the Zionists went into a rampage of bombardment and killings. And so also people are worried about what's going to happen from now until the call of the ceasefire later, probably tonight. And also the thing that the media is thinking about is who is going to announce this ceasefire? Is it the United States? Is it the Qataris? Is it the Israelis? But it is coming. The ceasefire is coming, and the Palestinian people are going to have finally a day of peace after 16 months of nonstop genocide.
What's interesting is this, and this is my take on it, Laith. I had a friend talking to me about Trump. Trump's doing this, Trump's doing that. And I said, Trump is representing a faction of the true ruling elite. There is no way in the world that Trump's just sitting there making a decision of his own of what he's going to do. There are very, very powerful forces, and probably some powerful Zionist forces are saying we need to get out of this, right? And that Trump, in my opinion, whatever Trump is doing or isn't doing is representative of some very powerful people. He can't just say, let's do this or do that, or he wouldn't live to see the sun go down. Here are my thoughts, Laith. The Zionists said, this is what we're going to do. We're going to defeat Hamas and wipe them out. Well, they haven't done that. We're going to defeat Hezbollah and drive them back to the Litani, blah, blah, blah. They haven't been able to do that. They haven't accomplished any of their goals. Which means if you set a bunch of goals and you don't accomplish any of them, you lost the war, regardless of the devastation and the human suffering that they've caused. They have not won the war because they have not achieved their goals, number one. Number two, and the world despises them. McDonald's about ready to go out of business. I don't know if you've been reading that, because people just stopped going everywhere, right? Starbucks is in trouble. The corporations that supported them are taking a beating. I'm sure their corporate owners saying, hey, you got to get us out of this mess too. Ukraine, they lost that war, game over. So it seems to me that there were maybe some powerful ruling elite factions as Trump comes in saying, we lost 2 wars. We got to find a way out. We can't keep losing them. That's my thoughts. Maybe I'm a bit of you call that a conspiracy theorist or whatever, but it's not that that there are people looking at it saying we've lost 2 damn wars and made ourselves look like idiots worldwide. We got to try to find a way out to recoup. Anyway, your thoughts?
I am with you 100% on this, and I would take it even further. Look, Netanyahu claiming that he has no choice and that Trump is forcing him and all that supposed bullying by the Trump envoy. This is actually plays into what the Trump wants. Trump wants to look like the new strong emperor, right? And Netanyahu is playing exactly what Trump wants. They are, put this in the context of Trump's statements over the last week, whether wanting to take Greenland, Canada, and the Panama Canal, and renaming the Gulf of Mexico, and saying that he's going to meet within the first week with Putin and end the war there. So all of these are statements of strength of a new emperor and a new empire that's now not going to play bull. It's going to be actually bullish instead of just playing bull. And so Netanyahu had to make Trump look strong as a new emperor, just for strengthening this new vision of the U.S. as an empire. And I don't think he was pressured. I mean, they're buddies, they're friends, and we know the Kushners and all of that story. So it's not like that history is suddenly gone out the window. There was a lot of people talking about the tweet by Trump on Truth Social from last week, where he shared Dr. Sachs criticizing Netanyahu and calling him, the reason that the wars in Iraq and Syria and so forth. So, and that dark son of a bee. So, I think this is all theatrics. Okay, we will see what's going to happen in the next month or two, especially in the first 100 days of the ruling of Trump. What is he going to do? Is he actually going to deliver on Fortress North America, which I personally think is a great idea? Get rid of the Canada as a fake vessel, and
well, be honest about it. They're already that. Why pretend there's something else?
I mean, the U.S. owns most of the natural resources of Canada, whether it's the lumber and or the mining and so forth. And in fact, the only challenger to the U.S., specifically in the oil fields of Canada, is China. And it would make more sense for him to kick out China from the oil fields of Alberta by, taking over Canada. And he will be able to cut on all the government waste, of all of these fake governments and ministries and so on, and that actually wait for an order from Washington to do anything in their ministry. He'll save billions of dollars and give them just one seat in the Congress, and it's done. It's he can save billions of dollars from the imperial loot, and so if he actually goes that way and concentrates on Mexico, which is another thing. I mean, people, his talk about 20 million refugees being expelled into Mexico, and his talk about, listing the drug cartels as terrorist organizations, that means going to war with Mexico, okay? Maybe he is gonna go that path. And if he does, that's good for the rest of the world, because the U.S. will be withdrawing from the conflicts in the region. But I'm not sure. Again, we live in a crazy twilight zone.
I don't think he's
yeah.
A lot of big talk from Trump. You know what I mean? He always talks like maximalist. I'm going to, you go to a bunch of Trump hotels and you see undocumenteds all over the place working. He ain't going to cut his own. You know what I mean? You go to the ruling elite, and they're the ones that use undocumented labor the most because they won't have to pay people. I doubt very serious if that, but it's what people wants to hear. But I think what we're seeing, I believe, is there is an element of the ruling elite who, at the end of Biden's administration, are like, man, we're screwed. And they're looking for a way. They've lost 2 wars. They don't know what to do, I think. And Trump's job is, I'll put it like this. I'm going to say, to clean it up into follow orders and appear to be cleaning it up. But I think they understand they've gotten themselves into some things that they can't get out of. So I think that's important. How do you think, let's say the ceasefire is signed and they say effective immediately, the ceasefire is being enforced, and that Israel actually has, a real ceasefire, not one where we say, all right, here's the deal. They have to stop shooting at Israel and Israel can keep shooting at them. That's the kind of ceasefire we've gotten so far. But how will it be viewed in the region if it's an actual ceasefire and nobody can shoot it at anybody?
So we saw right now the leaked papers that are signed. It includes, 5 points: a complete cessation of hostilities, withdrawal of Israel from specifically the border with Egypt, what is called the Philadelphia Axis, and
Right.
the crossing from the Netzarim, exchange of prisoners of war, then the entry of aid, and finally the entry of reconstruction materials and so forth. And it is supposed to be 45 days. Now, we are seeing the 60 days ceasefire in Lebanon. What did it bring? Did it actually end the occupation?
Right.
No, it didn't. And in fact, just today, up until we got on air here, there's 4 villages in the south of Lebanon that the Lebanese army was supposed to enter over the last 5 days, and the Israeli military has not been allowing them. And finally, the Israelis invaded these villages, Hula, Mais Jabal, Aitarun, and Aitar Jabal. So they re-entered them, and they just went on a rampage in front of all the cameras, just shooting at houses randomly, throwing hand grenades randomly at houses, and entered with tanks. And then finally, there's a few, villas of, people that are wealthy in the neighborhoods of these small villages, probably, expats like diasporas that come back in the summers and build nice houses there. They just went into these houses and are setting up detonation, packages. They want to just blow them up, just for the hell of it. They've filmed themselves before, these Israeli soldiers, playing around inside these houses and playing on the pianos and so on. And now they just want to destroy them for the hell of it. So this is happening right now. What is going to happen in Gaza? Is it going to play out the same way? Well, the resistance in Gaza is still active till this moment, and has just yesterday, 12 Israeli soldiers were killed in a ambush that the Palestinian resistance conducted in Beit Lahia, which is an area that has been ethnically cleansed completely, and the Israelis have been directly occupying for over 2 months now. So I think the Israelis will not maybe play the same game as they are playing in South Lebanon, but they will stretch everything till the inauguration of Trump, because the ceasefire in Lebanon is supposed to end on the 27th, so 7 days after Trump takes the imperial seat. And if we count from now, 45 days starting from tomorrow, it will take us to the end of February, right? And so will we have actually a full ceasefire? I don't know. And what's going to happen in the West Bank? The Israelis just deployed 2 new corpses, basically. Corps, sorry. I know the P. Somebody reminded me that I shouldn't say, when you talk about the military corps, you don't pronounce the P. But yeah, so they're conducting a new genocide in the West Bank. And how is that going to affect whatever ceasefire comes into Gaza? Those are all questions we don't have answers for yet.
Yeah. Yemen. I'm reading that the Ansar Allah has been, and I'm bringing up. I always the El Mayadeen English. They have a lot. They have a lot of stuff going on there. And for those who know, it's Al Mayadeen, ALMAYADEEN.net. They have a ticker that runs across the top that kind of updates you with what things that are going on. But I understand that Yemen has been basically, I was going to say striking Israel. They've nonstop. They've been striking Israel nonstop, and Israel has not, been able to stop them. Apparently, my understanding is they've been firing on and/or striking some U.S. military ships or targets again. What do you know about Ansar Allah's their activities?
So it's amazing. The minute we started hearing that there's going to be probably a deal on ceasefire in Gaza, actually the Yemeni authorities and resistance accelerated their attacks. So over the last 12 hours, there's been 3 attacks on the Zionist colony with hypersonic missiles. And the last of them last night targeted the Ministry of Security and hit the Ministry of Security in the suburbs of Tel Aviv. And it was also conducted with not only the hypersonic missile, but a swarm of drones, suicide drones, something I think around 20 of them, that targeted around Tel Aviv and settlements in the West Bank, which is a very important, I think, move that hasn't happened before, which, I've always thought in my head the settlements in the West Bank should have been one of the targets to help the Palestinians in the West Bank liberate some of the land. But anyways, we're at the end of this Aqsa flood. We'll see how long things continue this way with Trump's arrival. To go back to Yemen, they also targeted the Harry Truman aircraft carrier group in the Red Sea 3 times in a span of a week. And each time of them, the whole group had to move further north in the Red Sea to see if that will protect it from the attacks. And the Yemenis were saying that the whole aircraft carrier group has been moving at their top speed as they're being attacked by the cruise missiles and drones, which is very dangerous for a whole aircraft carrier group that is all close to each other to move at high, top speed in a small waterway like the Red Sea. And so that shows you how difficult this battle has been for the Harry Truman aircraft carrier group, and their capabilities have been stretched to the max. And there's probably been hits that have been scored that the Americans didn't admit. And the last attack on the Harry Truman happened as jets were taking off from the deck. So that put in danger, of course, the pilots and whatever aircrafts were already on the deck. And we don't know what's the result of this attack. It's going to probably be like 50 years before it comes out of secret records. But it's clear Yemen is doing a lot, and the Yemeni government threatened the Saudis for the first time in a while because the UK, US, Israeli combined attack on Sana'a and Yemen last week included American and UK jets that took off from airfields that are in the Saudi territory. So they warned if this happens again, that the Saudi infrastructure will be a legitimate target. And finally, they also made a statement, the Yemenis, that they were now including Turkish flagged ships and companies in their field of attacks because of Turkey's continued supply to the Zionist colony.
It seems to me, I think Turkey is going to really, really be sorry for the day that they were really, to me, when it comes to overthrowing the Syrian government, and putting these crazies in charge that it couldn't have been done without Turkey, that they were at the foundation of it. But it already looks to me like it's starting to take a turn for the worse for Turkey. And I think they're going to be sorry in the long run, because they did this along with the Biden and Blinken, and those people are out of power. Not saying that anybody else is even in, but those people are out of power, and they're going to be left holding the bag here with an absolute mess. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, look, the situation on the ground, there is one benefit to Turkey, which is they have just now flooded the Syrian market with Turkish products. And the Syrian industries were very advanced, everything from processed foods to small electronics and sweets, everything was clothes, that Syria had self-sufficiency. So Turkey over the last month has flooded the Syrian market with products at below cost prices, in order to destroy whatever is left of the Syrian industry and self-sufficiency in any products. And because people are starving because of the sanctions, Syrian people are buying these products, and that's now we're seeing the effects already within a month, how this is affecting the industries in Syria. Now, this is something that Israelis were trying to do also in the south, where they occupied, but it seems like they don't have the stamina to flood them, even the small areas that they occupied, with below the cost product to destroy whatever alternative Syrian products are there in the market. So they're not able to do what the Turks are doing. So that's one thing. So probably within the next 6 months, the Syrian market will be hostage to Turkish products, and nobody else will be able to compete. Now, we look at the negotiations to create a new government. We just heard Foreign Minister Lavrov of Russia a few hours ago respond to a question from Al Mayadeen television about the situation in Syria and if Russia is exiting. And he denied that Russia is exiting. He said they will be staying, the embassy is working, and that the Turkey and the Gulf monarchies want Russia, Iran, and China to be a balance and to enter in the negotiations on the formation of the government. And that's basically means that the Iranian and Russian and Chinese interest in Syria will be taken care of, and it will not be an exit for Russia or Iran. And it's clear also the Iranian embassy is still active, as the Russian embassy is active in Damascus. So that means they have influence. It seems a big game of everybody agreeing to do what happened in Syria, and the Turks cannot control Syria because of how diverse the country is. Which brings me to the issue a few hours ago, the new HTS government called for a military operation in Jabli in the mountain ranges. This is a kind of a powerhouse for the Alawi sect, Jabli town, and there's been clashes since the morning. They're trying to basically break the will of the people in the Sahel area, the coastline of Syria. And there's a huge discussion about the constitution of Syria and what is it going to be? Is it going to be an Islamist state? Is it going to be secular state as it was? Which constitution do they adopt as a starting point? And I don't think the Wahhabis are going to be able to manage this. There's now too many different voices in Syria that are speaking, and everybody's influence is on the ground. The HTS government, as we know it, is not going to last very long.
It seems to me that I'm not going to say that the HTS government is weak. I'm going to say there's nothing there to be weak. That the HTS government walked in, to me, based on a bunch of, more than anything else, I think there was backroom deals and bribery. in a nutshell. That was the fall of Syria, because they didn't even have a war. It was backroom deals and bribery. HTS walked in, and to me, they're nothing but puppets, faces for someone else. So there is no HTS government in reality. It appears to be one, but really, they're like, oh, we don't want the Israelis. We're fine with the Israelis. They're fine with there's like everybody. Oh, we don't want the Russians to leave. Oh, we get the turtle. They're like, they don't want to offend anyone to some extent. They don't want anyone to leave. Like, they don't know what the hell they're doing, which leads me to believe they're not even real, that they are a creation of the Turks, of Erdogan. And Erdogan's in a jam because he's in NATO, but he desperately needs Russia economically. But you know what I'm saying? So they put in a front that even the HTS government's a fraud in a front.
Oh yes, and this is a militia of what 60,000 maximum. You can't govern a country with 60,000. You don't have enough people to put in government and offices and so on, let alone a police force. It would be like much bigger than 60,000, and or a military, obviously. So the country, all of the structures cannot be filled by these Contras, and they're not used to governing. They're militias. They're used to killing people, and so this is not going to work out the way that Turkey thought, and or the Israelis thought this is going to work out. In fact, now the country is so porous. Remember, you said in the beginning, Israel didn't win anything in Gaza, didn't win anything in Lebanon. Well, in reality, they didn't win anything in Syria. If the objective was to cut the supply route through Syria to Lebanon, today you can cross the border into Syria without even getting printed anything on your border. Just walk in, and all the towns and villages on the border with Lebanon, there's open, outright gun markets. Okay, instead of vegetable markets, it's gun markets now, and you can buy anything from a little Glock to a tank. Okay, and
international arms dealers,
and the prices are by the kilo, by the pound.
Wow.
It's not even like what is the piece, how advanced it is. People are just selling anything they have looted from the reserves of the Syrian military. So you can it sounds like a joke that they're selling by the pound, but really this is what's happening. The Kalashnikov with a wood long shoulder mount, and then there's the Kalashnikov, that's short one that you bend the shoulder mount. The one that bends and is shorter is usually more expensive. Well, no, they're selling it cheaper just because it's smaller. The weight is less. And so you can go and have a whole arsenal by yourself that includes everything from ATGMs and Katyushas and everything you can imagine for less than $1,500. You can have your own little cache of weapons. So that is a huge failure. And Israel right now is actually less secure. Look at its overstretch into the south of Syria. It doesn't have air defenses over these troops. At any moment, if somebody really launches resistance in the south of Syria, they can pick at these soldiers very easily, and it's going to be a mess for the Israelis.
Yeah, they've created a disaster for themselves. They're gonna the Israelis, because there will be people after this supposed ceasefire who are not part of any organized group and are going to say, hey, we ceasefire doesn't apply to us because we're not a member of a country or a group, so we're going to keep shooting at the Israelis. They're going to face some problems in the long run. People are going to be heavily armed and want revenge. Lebanese politics. What's happening with the state of Lebanese politics? I understand there's a new prime minister or president or whatever the case may be. What's going on with politics in Lebanon?
Yeah, so the Americans jammed in a new president, and they basically raped the constitution live on air. Because in the constitution of Lebanon, it says that no serving grade A civil servant can be elected as president. You have to be retired for at least 2 years or resign from your post for 2 years. And General Joseph Aoun was the head of the military, and they jammed him in as the president. It was right in the open, the return of colonial out and out rule, with the ambassadors sitting in the parliament and waving their fingers at the parliamentarians to vote the way they did. And yesterday, out of the blue, they appointed a new prime minister. And so General Joseph Aoun is the president, the head of the military, and the new prime minister is Salim Fayyad, who is the head judge of the International Court of Justice that led the case against the Zionist colony for genocide. He was rushed back in last night to the country, and he gave his first speech a few hours ago. And in his speech, he said that he is not a divisionist. He's not going to be a divisionist prime minister. He's going to be a unificationist. That his arms are open to all parties in the country. That his priority is the implementation of 1701 and the ceasefire agreement. That Lebanon will not have or see peace until every inch of Lebanon is liberated from Israeli occupation. That the second priority he has is immediately rebuilding the country, and priority to the southern villages and the Dahi and Beqa areas that were destroyed by Israeli attacks. So he sounded very patriotic, and I think the appointment of the prime minister within so fast actually surprised the president, the new president, Joseph Aoun, that the Americans handpicked. And it looks like the Saudis wanted to show their ability to have more say than even the American ambassador in the country. Since the collapse of Syria, and the Taif agreement that existed was a power sharing between Syria and Saudi Arabia over the Lebanon, and the president and prime minister post Syria usually traditionally had the veto over the president, and Saudi had the veto over the prime minister. Now, the Saudis were worried that the Americans filling this gap of the presence of Syria in Lebanese politics would also make the Americans think that they also can pick the prime minister. So they rushed him in. We don't know where things are going to go. But again, we don't have much time left till the end of the ceasefire.
When is the end? What do you know the date?
Yeah, the 27th. So we have 13 days left for the ceasefire to end, 1 week after the coming of Trump into power. This month is going to be crucial for this new prime minister, a new president in Lebanon, to show that they can deliver on sovereign positions, and actually liberate the country, so they can have an excuse to say that, like, Hezbollah has to disarm, for instance, right? So I don't know how they're going to do this, and if the United States, with Trump, would want to strengthen the new president and prime minister by, again, quote unquote, forcing Netanyahu to completely withdraw from the south of Lebanon.
It seems to me, I think that Trump coming in is, for lack of a better word, I'll say an opportunity for people. That there are even people within the Zionist worldwide community who are political realists enough, right, to say we're hurting ourselves bad. right? In the United States, they've destroyed the Democratic Party. I mean, destroyed it. You know what I mean? I mean, I don't see how the Democratic Party can ever get back a huge segment who are furious over the genocide. They lost, and the whole young generation. There's no future for the Democratic Party because of the genocide. People have just like looked at them and said, "Hey, this is unacceptable." I think there is what we're going to see when, as Trump starts to come in, a huge rush by to try to recover as best they can from this calamity. But here's the problem I think they'll have. At the conclusion of the ceasefire, there are going to be people saying, we've got to look into various things. We've got to look into accusations of, rape and things of that nature. I understand the Israelis just said they're rejecting like some UN or some external investigation into sexual abuse, right? And remember, they're the ones who said there were mass rapes on October 7th. And apparently there's some UN or whoever says, great, let's do, not great, but you know what I mean? Let's do it. And they're like, oh, no, we can't do that because of that's going to inevitably lead to what's going on in Israeli prisons and detention camps. And they can't stand that. So now I think they're in a position where they have to fight and stop the investigations of some of the worst and most horrific abuses that this world has seen in recent years.
Yeah, look, the ceasefire, if it does come into effect, is going to accelerate the bringing to justice through international courts and so on of Israeli officials and military cadre that participated in genocide and so on. And you were referring to the UN investigation because Israel kept on accusing the Palestinians of rape on October 7th. Finally, the UN said, let's do an investigation. And the Israeli government refused because there is no rape that occurred on October 7th. That's not.
There's plenty that occurred after October 7th by the Israelis.
Exactly. And now one of those who are imprisoned is Dr. Abu Sofia, the head of the Kamal Adwan hospital in Gaza that got abducted, very famous photo. He's now, suffering severe health problems because of the torture, and we don't know if rape also that happened to him in the death camps that the Israelis have built since the war in Gaza started. So the situation is really bad. There is an Israeli general that there was attempts at his arrest in Italy, and the Italian government has to sneak him out. There was all those soldiers that were snuck out of Brazil, Sri Lanka, Thailand, Emirates, Morocco, that everywhere they're going, there's court cases being launched against them. The Zionist colony is a pariah now. In humanity, it's shunned, okay? And that is actually affecting the whole West that protected this televised genocide and the depravities. So we can see how that is affecting, as you mentioned, all Western corporations like McDonald's and others that, and everybody is trying to find any alternative they can to buy from outside Western empire, and this is affecting the whole West. And even when we talk about the United States internally, look, I think the biggest fear for the elite in the West is their own doing. There is no more cohesion within Western societies. Like, look at the fires in California. Okay, they're bickering, the Democratic and Republican Party, about who's to blame. Right? They're not helping the people of California and to stop the fires. There's no national patriotic feeling of just regular people coming out and trying to help put out the fire. Look at what happened here in Lebanon during the war, with a million people being displaced, and then every neighborhood opening their doors, and every church and every mosque, and and people doing all this charity work and helping each other. You don't see something like that in the United States. And the elite are the ones who fed this over the last 20 years, this, divisions between their own population. And the United States now, its basic thing that Trump is probably going to need to do is try to help build this national feeling, at least, of cohesion. And he's doing it through this imperial pride that he wants to put back in the American people. Look at us. We are the strongest. We are the so on. And he hopes that this will win back national cohesion. I don't know where that's going to happen. How is that going to happen?
No, it can't, because I mean, bottom line is this a combination of the deterioration of the material needs of people and the fact that there is a significant portion of our country that is aghast at what our government has done in the Middle East for the last, that they knew that these people were bad, but they watched the genocide right in front of their face. And they're not going to recover from that. They're not going to see the ruling elite in our country as legitimate. I have heard people say this, talking about what's happening in California, say, well, isn't that interesting? It looks like Gaza. God must have, punished them. That, they're looking at it saying, well, we watch people burn alive, and now of all of these wealthy people, where Hollywood, Zionists, supporters of Israel, and now they're getting the same thing, So there are people looking at that who don't even have, I'm a person, I don't wish bad upon any human being. But I'm just saying, there are people looking at that saying, you couldn't have had any greater supporters of Zionism, covering it up in Hollywood, covering it up in the movies, all that kind of stuff. And now look what they got. So even within the U.S., there is internal anger towards any element that's perceived as supporting this genocide. So much so that there's people just shaking their heads saying, oh, well, kind of sucks. But guess what? What goes around comes around, which shows some real internal issues here.
Oh yes, and I think in my mind, the Creator is the most merciful and most forgiving. I don't think the Creator is an evil, God that punishes in such ways and harms innocents, because there's a lot of innocent people even in these fires. All the working class neighborhoods and so on that have been burnt out, including one of the oldest Black communities in the United States, in California. Sorry. So it's I don't ever want to blame God for such catastrophes, and we don't wish God intervenes in such ways that are inhuman and ungodly. Look, in Canada, to show you how much this disease of the collapse of cohesion within the societies has now spread to much of the Western states. In Canada right now, there's probably a majority that will be fine with being occupied by the United States and made into a quisling state, Similarly in Greenland, okay? And in Canada, we're talking about Quebec versus the rest of Canada, the English versus the French, and they've been fighting and saying, I am better, I want separation. Quebec wants separation from the English occupation of the rest of Canada. Quebec has the highest approval to being taken over by the United States. so the psychosis is amazing. Quebec separatists to join the U.S. It's like, what is happening here? And so the cohesion in all of Western societies, because of these amazing contradictions, because of how the elite in the West have used the same kind of division tactics that they use, let's say, in the Arabic world, Sunni versus Shia, they did this, identity politics, and we know the story. There's too many stories. We can talk about identity politics, how the the elite in the West played against their own populations. Now, the poison has been spread so far that social cohesion is impossible to get back. And the whole societies are going into these frenzies. And I don't know. I personally, as a Canadian citizen married to an American with my kids with both citizenship, I'm fine with getting an American passport.
Well, the thing about it is, and as I was saying about what's happening in California, it's not that I agree, because I certainly don't. I'm not a particular religious man that God's smiting people left and right. I'm just saying it demonstrates the lack of cohesion in this country, right? When people look at, I'll put it like this, one thing that's obvious now, and that is everything from the guy Luigi who shot the guy who was viewed as a member of the ruling elite, and what happened? People cheered. Very, very rich areas in Hollywood are burning down, and there are people who are looking at it saying, they're rich, or they're a bunch of Zionists, who cares? You know what I mean? And I'm not saying that I agree with any of that. I'm just saying there is the ruling elite in the US have a crisis of legitimacy, where what they have done, particularly over the course of time, but particularly the last 4 years and the last 16 months, have created a dynamic where there are people in this country looking at the ruling elite as evil, genocidal monsters, saying, I do not accept their legitimacy to rule over us. They are morally illegitimate. And that's the problem. I think the genocide has created a dynamic where a large portion of the American people and people in other countries are looking at these so-called leaders in the West saying they are morally illegitimate.
Yeah, look at, the elite in the West lost their mainstream media legitimacy in the beginnings of the internet. Remember the anti-globalization movement and the Battle of Seattle at the end of the 90s.
Yep.
Me and you, we remember those things and probably were, aware and involved. And, I was. And that was because of the beginnings of the internet, when people created these blogs and the indie media website that was people sharing video, audio, and text about news on the ground, and became like an international thing, the indie media, that doesn't exist by now anymore, unfortunately, because a lot of the texts that were involved in indie media got bought up by the corporations. And actually the open source code of indie media is the backbone of Facebook and Twitter and all of those things, by the way. So the elite, to avoid that, built us all this controlled social media, okay? And, kind of for a while, let the genie out of the bottle, maximize that model of indie media website, but then eventually started doing all the algorithm controls that are destroying all of this once they felt that it's too dangerous for them. Look at what YouTube is doing to you. And on our episodes here, the numbers fluctuate unbelievably. One segment, me and you do it, it's got 15,000. Another segment is 5,000 next week. You're like, what is happening here?
Yeah, I'll look a lot of times and I'll have 1,000 people watching, right? I look now, 387, barely. They don't, and people are in the chat saying, I didn't receive notifications. And again, like I said, I look at my numbers, and my numbers will go like this, up, up, up. And I'm like, wow, I got a bunch of people. And then the views and everything will go down. And I'm like, how can I have more people and less views? Or more views and less people? It never makes sense, but of course it does make sense.
Yeah, so now they're going even further with this ban on TikTok, and you saw the reaction of the populace rushing to the Chinese version of TikTok, the Red Notebook. And I just downloaded it, by the way, yesterday, and I'm going to open a FPTV, Free Palestine TV channel there. Hopefully we can speak to our Chinese brothers and sisters and get donations from there. So this is now a very dangerous point for the elite in the West. Their legacy media lost control not only for their own population, but the global population. the social media platforms that are controlled are losing hold of the audience. Many people are going to things like Rumble and
Telegram.
alternatives, yes,
Yeah.
and Telegram, and even this Red Note. And the future is social media platforms from enemies of the empire that are going to take the markets, at least for the rest of the world, which will not be banned the use of these platforms, which is going to, cut off the ability of the West to even affect the population's public opinion in countries they want to manipulate. So it's not a bright future for Western imperialism, and they are shooting themselves in the foot constantly.
Oh yeah, 170 million people, 170 million, which is just a little bit over half of all Americans are on TikTok, and the government says we got to shut it down. But why? I was just watching a video the other day of Mitt Romney talking about that. Oh, they put all of this pro-Hamas stuff. If you look at what happened, TikTok is being shut down because of the Zionists. It's clear. In fact, the two members of Congress who introduced and pushed the bills to get rid of TikTok, both of them wrote op-eds saying that TikTok was a problem because it was pro-Hamas and it was anti. So they wiped out a 170 million, which were all the young people were on TikTok, all the young people, and they're going to shut it down because of Zionism. Do you really think that's going to make these people like Zionism anymore? They are going to be infuriated at our government. They're going to be infuriated at the Zionists. And the discussion is going to go out. Well, Zionism shut down TikTok. How do you feel about it? That's going to be it's not going to be good for Zionism. I'll put it to you like this in this United States.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm surprised when people claim that it's because of the Palestinian content on TikTok, these congressmen claiming that, because TikTok shut down 5 pages for Free Palestine TV in a span of 6 weeks. And that doesn't happen to us on Instagram. So the actual administration of TikTok is trying very hard to appease the Zionists and the Americans. So the Americans, really, their problem is not about Palestine on TikTok. Their problem is the data of the users. Their problem is making money, that somebody else is going to make money, not them. And the other global ramifications of TikTok dominating the market of these short videos, because maybe TikTok can deliver on controlling Palestinian content, but can it do it to every issue on the planet according to what the US wants? There's going to be a limitation of what China allows. Okay, they want to post videos that are nasty to China. TikTok's not going to let it happen, right? So they may take down Palestinian content, but definitely they're not going to allow anti-China content on the platform. So that's really what's the issue. And Palestine is a ragdoll being thrown between each side. This is unfortunately what it is.
Add this: the U.S. has Facebook, Twitter, etc. So the U.S. had all of the social media platforms. Europe is not allowed to have any. For those people who say, well, why are there no social media platforms in Europe? Because they're vassals. In the US, it says you're not allowed to create a social media platform, right? Russia, well, it's Telegram's owned by Russia, but it's not right. But they have their own internal VK. The only other super gigantic social media platform is TikTok, and it's owned by China. And the US says basically is nobody else can have social media platforms other than us. We use them for regime change. We use them for propaganda. We use them for soft power. And doggone it, nobody else is allowed to have one. And doggone it, China has one, and it's outgrowing ours, and we can't control it. And it's not that it takes data, because let's face it, that's all U.S. social media platforms. It's that the U.S. can't use it to steal data like they want to and control it worldwide, and it's growing so much. So ultimately, to me, this is about social media and online control above all. I did want to ask you about Iran. On the 17th, the Russians and the Iranians are signing some kind of what appears to be a military alliance. And other things are going on Iran. What are your thoughts on what's happening with Iran?
Yeah, I mean, we are hearing about this agreement and that there will be exchange of military technologies and weapons. I hope so. I also wish that Iran continues to depend fully on its own capabilities and develop these things, so it doesn't have to either burden Russia and or have to depend on it fully, because we live in a world where states prioritize their own interest, and
Yep.
at that moment things could change. So Iran should never depend fully on these treaties with Russia or others. The other thing that we hear about is the supposed secret negotiations and talks between the Troika in Europe, Germany, France, and the UK, with Iran, either in Switzerland and or in Oman, that there's talks about some new nuclear deal. And, whether this is true or not, is going to have to depend in the end on Trump. What is Trump going to say about all of this? And therefore, the future of any negotiations on a nuclear deal right now, we can think about all this talk is just kind of lightening the contradictions between the United States and Iran, and just trying to show that Iran has a willingness to sit down somehow. And that is what is being balanced with these agreements with Russia. If Russia can guarantee enough defensive capabilities, specifically in the air, for the Iranians, that they wouldn't have to create a nuclear weapon as a deterrent, then maybe Iran would return to a possible new nuclear deal. And for a new nuclear deal to happen, there has to be a full delivery of these weapons from Russia, the air defenses and jets, to Iran before that happens. Iran has paid for multiple sets of S-400s and S-500s, multiple squadrons of Sukhoi 37s and others, but they haven't been delivered. It's been over 5 years on many of these contracts. Some of these contracts is just like a year ago, but they haven't been delivered. And those, I think, the Russians may want to negotiate with Trump a holistic situation. I believe the meeting between Trump and Putin that will happen will not only discuss the situation in Ukraine, but it will also discuss the balance with Iran
and North Korea. I bet you. I bet North Korea too. Now I bet Russia's able to represent North Korea.
Yes,
and that would benefit Trump. Actually, it would benefit Trump to get a grand bargain. Not that anybody would trust the U.S. Nobody in their right mind. But what's the old saying? Trust but verify, or don't trust but verify. My dad used to call it a money in hand deal. In other words, we make a deal, but it's got to be money in my hand right now. So if there could be a deal with the U.S. that you say you've got to do this now, and they actually do that, and that consummates the deal when they take the actions, I think it's possible, let's just say, to do something like that. And I think you're on track.
Yes, and look at it this way, both China and Russia are telling the United States empire that their priority is their neighborhood. They want to make sure that their geographic surrounding is not a threat to them, and they have no interest in, doing a grand imperialist race, between the parties, the three largest powers. And the signals that Trump is giving by talking about Greenland, Canada, and Panama and Mexico is similar, is saying, hey, I want to shore up my surroundings and neighborhoods, make sure that they don't affect my imperial power. And I'm willing to make deals about your surroundings, China and Russia, including what we see here now, the rush for a ceasefire in Gaza and so on. So let's hope that all these signals are true, that it's not only propaganda before the coming of Trump, but everything will be revealed to us, I think, within the first 100 days. Trump is going to have to do a whole change to differentiate himself from Biden, and it's going to be a new world, definitely.
It's going to be interesting. I think there are those who are saying, in the ruling elite of the U.S., who are saying the world's different. We're in a multipolar world. And the Biden administration just said, we're going to fight it. We're going to defeat the multipolar world. We're going to destroy it. We're going to crush it. And I think there are those in the ruling elite that are saying, well, that ain't happening. So how do we exist in this world and continue to at least dominate our region and fill our filthy, stinking, greedy pockets, which is their first, second, and third plan? Which I'll put it like this: if it means less death throughout and murder and genocide throughout the world, we'll have to start with that and move our way and move forward from there. FreePalestine.video. That is the website that you need to go to, because and not just to go there to help them and to support them, but also because there's good info. You want to know what's going on in the Middle East. You want to see videos. You want to see it in English language. Guess what? FreePalestine.video is the place to go. Go there, follow FreePalestine.video on all of their social media platforms. And additionally, it's very prominent. When you go there, you can see to donate. You got two options. You can donate just a single donation, or you can be a monthly subscriber, a monthly member, and donate monthly. Certainly it's great if you can do a one-time donation, but it would be even better, even if it's $5 or $10, $20 a month, whatever you can afford. That recurring monthly revenue is what really is the foundation of a strong operation. So go to FreePalestine.video, donate if you can afford it. And even if you can't, you can still help the cause by sharing FreePalestine.video on all your social media platforms and asking people in a post, hey, go here, check everything out. But while you're there, please donate. Make sure you put that in the post, and we will all work together to continue. Hopefully we'll get a ceasefire and we can grow this thing even more. Laith Marouf, thank you very much. Any further, you get the last comment.
Good to be with you, Garland, and see you next Tuesday, everybody.
That'll be well, we got to talk next Tuesday. That'll be the first day of Trumpian takeover. Thanks, everybody. Yeah. Share this on all your social media platforms. Laith and I are